Welcome back to the explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into it. Have you ever stared at a messy, tangled breadboard? The kind full of wires that constantly pop out at the worst possible moment, and wondered, how on earth do I turn this chaotic science experiment into a sleek, professional piece of hardware? Well, if so, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're mastering the PCB design workflow. We're going to take you all the way from a completely abstract concept right through to a manufactured piece of physical technology that's actually ready for the real world. To do that, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with 1, the PCB foundation, then 2, choosing your design tools, 3, planning and schematics, 4, footprints and layout, 5, final checks and export, and we'll wrap up with 6, best practices. All right, section 1, the PCB foundation. The contrast between prototyping and the final product is honestly striking. When you're working on a breadboard, your circuit is totally temporary. It's unreliable and it's practically guaranteed to break if you so much as bump the table. But our actual end goal, it's a beautiful, permanent, compact green board. That right there is the absolute hallmark of a professional electronic device. So what exactly is it? Well, PCB stands for printed circuit board. Literally, it's a rigid board that does 2 massive jobs for us. It mechanically supports your components, and it electrically connects them. It does this by ditching those messy breadboard wires and replacing them with highly conductive tracks etched right out of copper sheets. Throw in some solder pads to mount your components, and vias, which are essentially just tiny holes that connect the different layers of the board together, and suddenly, you've got a circuit that's incredibly reliable, super compact, and completely ready for mass production. Moving right along to section 2, choosing your design tools. Let's compare 2 absolute heavyweights in the PCB design software world. First up, Proteus. Proteus is fantastic for academic settings. It's got built-in SPICE simulation, which means you can actually virtually test your analog behavior and your microcontroller code before you build a single thing. Pretty cool, right? But then look at KiCad. This is a totally free, open-source tool heavily backed by CERN. It gives you a complete electronic design automation suite, taking you from schematics all the way to industry-grade output files, plus it has a massive community library. If your goal is industry-standard manufacturing on a budget, KiCad is an absolute powerhouse. Now for section 3, planning and schematics. This is the core 5-step sequence we'll be following today. Think of this as your survival map. 1, planning, 2, schematics, 3, ERC and footprints, 4, layout, and 5, DRC and Gerbers. Stick to this sequence, and I promise you will transform your idea into a physical board without pulling your hair out. Step 1 is purely about planning. Long before you even think about opening Proteus or KiCad, you have to clearly define what your circuit actually does. You need a block diagram to show how your subsystems connect. You've got to define your voltage levels, your current requirements, and list out every single component. Why does this matter so much? Because port planning here guarantees a painful, incredibly time-consuming redesign later on. Your block diagram is your ultimate blueprint. Once that plan is rock solid, we hit step 2, the schematic. Think of this as the architect's floor plan for your electronics. It uses simple, logical symbols to represent your components and lines to represent the electrical connections between them. But keep in mind, and this is super important, this is purely a logical representation. It tells the software what connects to what, but it dictates absolutely nothing about where these parts will physically sit on the final board. Which brings us perfectly to section 4, footprints and layout. Let's just pause here for a second, because this is where so many beginners stumble. We have this symbol, which is what we just used in our schematic. It defines the pins and connections, sure, but it has literally 0 physical size. But then we have the footprint. The footprint is the actual physical layout of the pads on your printed circuit board. It dictates the pad sizes, the spacing, and perfectly matches the real-world component that you're eventually going to solder down. A super common fatal mistake is simply forgetting to assign a physical footprint to your logical symbol. You definitely don't want to do that. Okay, before we actually physically place those footprints, we have to execute step 3, the electrical rule check, or ERC. Honestly, this warning icon should be your best friend. The ERC automatically scans your schematic for fatal electrical errors. We're talking unconnected pins, conflicting power sources, or just totally missing connections. Always run your ERC before moving to the layout phase. Catching an error here takes maybe 2 seconds to fix. Catching it after your board is physically printed, yeah, that's going to cost you some real time and money. So, assuming we pass the ERC with flying colors, we finally arrive at step 4, the actual PCB layout design. This is where the magic really happens. First, you draw your board outline, the literal physical shape and size of the fiberglass itself. Then you start placing your components, making sure to group related parts together so your signal paths stay nice and short. And finally, you route the tracks, drawing the actual copper traces with the correct width to connect everything up, dropping down vias whenever you need to hop between the top and bottom layers of the board.
All right, we are rounding the corner. Section 5, Final Checks and Export.
Enter the design rule check, widely known as the DRC. While our earlier ERC checked the abstract logic, the DRC is all about verifying our physical layout against real-world manufacturing constraints. So it asks things like, are your copper tracks way too close to each other? Are your via holes too tiny for the manufacturer's drill bits? Did you leave any unrouted nets, meaning logical connections that you just completely forgot to actually draw in copper? Listen carefully. You must absolutely never export your files if you still have DRC errors. If you do, you are essentially paying to manufacture a board that literally will not work.
But once that DRC comes back perfectly clean, we reach the climax of the software process, exporting the Gerber files. These stacked layers are the universal standard language that goes directly to PCB fabrication plants. They take your one digital design and slice it up into individual physical manufacturing layers.
So what's actually inside those Gerber exports? Well, basically, every physical aspect of your board gets its very own file. You're going to export one file specifically for the top copper and another for the bottom copper. You'll have files for the solder mask, that's the green coating that stops accidental solder bridges, and the silk screen, which is the white text printed on the very top. Finally, you generate a dedicated drill file, usually in what's called the Exelon format, which literally tells the factory's robotic machines the exact coordinates of where to drill every single hole. Let's bring it home with Section 6, Best Practices and Wrap-Up. Here are 2 golden rules you should absolutely live by to elevate your design from just working to highly reliable. First off, keep your power tracks short and wide. Long, skinny power traces essentially act like little resistors and antennas, adding a ton of unwanted noise and voltage drops to your circuit. Second, always place 0.1 microfarad decoupling capacitors right next to the power pins of your integrated circuits. These act like tiny local energy reserves that filter out high-frequency noise and keep your chips running perfectly smoothly. A couple more pro tips for you. Wherever you can, use a solid copper ground plane instead of routing thin little ground wires. If you're designing a really complex board, make sure to physically separate your analog and digital ground areas. That stops chaotic digital noise from messing with your sensitive analog signals. And please, utilize your silk screen. Label every connector, show component orientations, and mark your test points. Clear labels stop assembly mistakes in their tracks and make debugging an absolute breeze later on. Okay, before we wrap up, let's cement all of this with a super quick mental quiz. Try to answer these in your head right now. What is the fundamental difference between a symbol and a footprint? Why is it absolutely crucial to run the electrical rule check before you start your layout? And lastly, what exactly are Gerber files used for? If you can answer those 3 questions, congratulations, you've officially grasped the core of the PCB design workflow.
And that brings us to the end of today's explainer. You now know exactly how to design a professional, mass-producible printed circuit board. But what happens when that physical board arrives in the mail and, well, it doesn't work quite as expected? That leaves us with a provocative thought for next time. How do you hunt down invisible electrical ghosts? In our next explainer, we're going to tackle debugging tools, diving into the JTAG, the oscilloscope, and the multimeter. Until then, keep learning, keep designing, and I'll see you next time.